and I see he is singing a cappella. He changed the words, the lyrics to this classic music to fit the Red Berets, and then later on down the line, the Seattle Peace Chorus and volunteers of whole Washington actually created during COVID this virtual peace choir. So anyway, so it will make a little more sense.
We'll try this again.
Maybe take
I gotta get this right. Because that's not gonna work.
Yeah.
All right.
It might
Sorry.
be okay.
Technical
Acapella.
difficulty.
It says, Croce delizia, croce a red berets for Medicare, Medicare for all. Healthcare is a human right, healthcare for everyone. No one is left out, no one is left behind. It's not so crazy to guarantee healthcare, Medicare for all, Medicare for all. That's the shortened version. That's the best we can do.
So, the reason we are here today, we have narratives that are given to us by our local lawmakers, our politicians, and the mass media. These narratives are that companies like Fidelis Care are here to get us health care. Our Republicans, our Democrats are all back in saying the same things. Republicans will sell us the Democrats are raising the cost of our health care. Then the Democrats will say the Republicans are trying to take away your health care. Which one is telling us the truth? Neither. Neither one of them is trying to get us health care. They're fighting to get insurance contracts for us that deny health care for their profits. That is not giving us health care. Don't tell me that health care is a human right, but here's your contract that will deny that health care for our money. I'm going to first introduce Laura Fielding to speak first, founder of Red Berets National Medicare for All. Laura has come all the way out here from Washington State to amplify the New York Health Act and single-payer universal health care all across the country. We cannot do this all by ourselves. We need to unite. We need to come together. Everybody, Laura Fielding.
All right. I think I might need to take just a minute with all of this energy all around. So I'll just take a deep breath and just say thank you to every single one of you who have turned out today. And looking around at all of these stitches for single payer on everybody's heads, and we know. Right now in the movement, we know who has knit and crocheted and created these lockets and these pins. These are created by Scott. Just a little context in case people don't know. The Red Berets, we are a national coalition of independent craftivists, artists, and organizers, activists for national improved Medicare for all, and for state single-payer solidarity. And what that means is we need health care now. So the beret, which was inspired by a combination of the aerial views of the pink hats, the pussy hats, when Trump was first elected, it sort of planted the seeds. And months later, I was listening to it was on YouTube, it was a 2016 recording of a rally where Bernie and Roseanne DeMora were addressing the National Nurses United. And suddenly the aerial views of the pink hats, millions, in the streets, and not only across the United States, but all over the world. And it made me think, what if we could get the crafters, the crocheters, the knitters, the people that stitch, and create any kind of art? What if we could get that kind of visual show of solidarity demanding national improved Medicare for all and healthcare justice all over the place and everywhere? Medicare for all everywhere. And so, you know, we set about trying to put this idea out there, and it turns out that, you know, a nurse who is here by my side, who will be speaking later, Catherine Lewandowski, who is the vice chair of Whole Washington, she saw some of my posts in 2017. Because all at that point, all I knew is that I had heard Bernie's message, I had voted for Bernie, and I thought, like, we need to do this. And she saw these posts and said, I would like to hear more about this idea of knit for nurses and the 99%, because that's what I was posting. So she drove all the way down from more in northern Washington to Tacoma to talk to me about this idea, and she said, do you know about Whole Washington? And I said, no, I'm not connected with any activists. I just know that we need Medicare for all. So I got engaged with Whole Washington. We've done ballot initiatives, and today, because of Scott's solidarity, he's a true solidarity organizer, and to me what that means is it's not about branding or any particular org. It's about us coming together to demand healthcare justice for all of us. And so, you know, we've been connected through Twitter for quite some time. So we sent him a beret, and he posted a picture of himself in the beret. You know, we had heard his story of his loss to Fidelis Centene, of his son's tragic suicide, because he could not get the necessary medication to save his life. And in that picture that he posted, it was him in his red beret and his Bernie sign, because at that point we were in the midst of the primary, Bernie 220. And, you know, here he is holding up, we need Bernie, here's a red beret, here's the Solidarity apple, we need New York Health Act, all of the things, and the picture of his son, and it was all in that photo. And I thought, that's how we do this. We come together, and it's about us, it's not about like this org or that org. So, you know, the berets are, if you're forgetting us health care, and abolishing the military industrial complex as well as the insurance industrial complex, then put these berets on and say, give us health care. You could wear a PNHP, Physicians for a National Health Plan, Metro, shout out to PNHP Metro, New York nurses, New York Health Campaign, because we want to pass New York Health, Medicare for all everywhere, Whole Washington, National Nurses United. This is not about particular orgs, although we have endeavored to lift up and connect all of these vital organizations who are fighting every single day, locally and nationally, to build the kind of groundswell that is going to be required if we want to see National Improved Medicare for All passed into law. And we do. That is all of our goal here. That is our unified goal. And so I tend to look at the beret. These stitches are a metaphor for the movement. Everyone has a difference in strategy, in how we're going to get there, in which org maybe has the right strategy or messaging. Listen, what happens when you cast on 120 stitches and you join and you knit in the round or crochet, and then you make your headband, and then you do your increase rounds, and this is the structure of a beret. If we drop even a single stitch, the fabric unravels. So we are creating this fabric, this social justice, healthcare justice fabric through the beret, understanding that if you're for a general strike and you're putting that message out there, we need a general strike for National Improved Medicare for All, bingo, a red beret is for you, right? If you are running for office in any party at any level and you are for single payer universal health care, a red beret can be for you. If you are organizing directly with New York Health Campaign or PNHP Metro or Whole Washington or Mass Care, a red beret can be for you. If you're a union member for single payer, you can put your union button on it. It really is to try to create this unified fabric. Now I'm going to pause for just a second because I don't want to take more of my time, but I just felt, when people just see pictures of these berets, I think it's important that they have the context that in no way, shape, or form are we solely fighting only for one state to have this. We are creating a national solidarity fabric in order to get us all to national improved Medicare for all. And that starts here, passing the New York Health Act. Because Scott and Anna should not be here protesting losing their son to the insurance giants and to a millionaire priest who needs to make profit because they missed a $20 payment, right? So the next thing I want to say related to it being Easter Sunday is I was raised Catholic. I actually, all the way until it wasn't, until it became my choice, I was raised Catholic. And so I had to sit in my share of confessionals as a young person who was like, what have I done wrong? Like, what do I need to make something up? Do I need to feel shame? And not to go too much down that religious route, but I find it absolutely abhorrent to look back into my own past. I was raised in eastern rural Utah, so I will later be reading some words by Dr. Joseph Jarvis, who is the executive producer of a documentary that's coming out that we are all involved in called Healing Us. And he is a person who is truly a man of his faith, and he walks the walk. And that's what we are asking everyone to demand of Father Patrick Frawley. You cannot, why should people be raised and indoctrinated into a religion and forced to sort of confess and feel shame? Meanwhile, this person, Scott would have to tell us, he's a millionaire over, all off of enriching himself off of the profits of denying the poorest among us. That is, I don't even have a word for how heinous that is. But, so that's what we're out here doing today. And I think I'm going to pass it back to Scott. I didn't have really prepared remarks. I just knew the things I wanted to touch on. And it's just an absolute honor and pleasure to come out and return the solidarity to Scott that he has shown for all of us.
Give it up for Lord Fielding. There we go. Right side. So, April 9th, 2019. That's why we're here on April 9th today. Easter Sunday is just a coincidence. You see, I got involved in universal health care 4 years ago on this date. My son had come home one day, 29 years old, and Daddy says to me, Pops, I went to get my medicine refilled today and found out my insurance had been canceled. And I tell Danny, not a big deal, Danny, how much is your medicine? The medication was risperidone, an atypical antipsychotic with a known risk of suicide from withdrawal. Danny's answer to me was $250. I don't have $250 today. I don't. I tell Danny, okay, Danny, you have an appointment with your therapist in a couple of weeks. I'm sure she can help you out. In the meantime, you need to get a hold of Fidelis Care and find out what's going on. Well, Danny didn't call Fidelis Care that day. He waited a couple of days. It was like April 1st or April 2nd that he called. When he called, he found out that he had missed a $20 payment to his Medicaid plan. A new plan was started by New York for people who made a certain dollar amount over what was required for Medicaid, and then they could get Medicaid. So for $20, he missed it, and he takes out a credit card, and he pays it on the phone that day. They tell Danny, your plan, as in contract, will be reinstated the next billing cycle of May 1st. Atypical antipsychotic with a known risk of suicide. April 9th of 2019 at 11:23 in the morning, 32 seconds after Danny makes his post, I see the cab of his truck overlooking the water on Facebook. like a suicide note. He tells us, "I'm sorry for hurting those who care. This is selfish, I'm sure. But I've been staring at the water for hours and I've made my decision. I've superglued my seatbelt shut and I don't have the strength to open it. I've been staring at the waters for hours and I made my decision. This world wasn't meant for me. Maybe the next life could be better." Said goodbye to his 2 children, and he drove his truck into the Mohawk River. I screamed to my wife what was going on. She was across the table from me. I didn't know he was at the Mohawk River. We live 5 minutes from Saratoga Lake, so I assumed that's where he was. I jumped in my car and I raced down the lake, looking for muddy water, bubbles coming up, anything I could do, tire tracks, to find my son. After about 20 minutes, I realized no human could have survived this long. And I had to make the conscious decision to turn around and drive back home to tell my wife that our son was dead because he missed a $20 payment to his Medicaid plan. Fidelis Care was originally founded as a nonprofit organization by a Father Patrick Frawley, an ordained priest of the Brooklyn Catholic Diocese. In 2018, he sold Fidelis Care to Centene, the biggest beneficiary of the managed Medicaid program by the ACA, for $3.8 billion while wearing a collar claiming to be a man of God. He then retained the position of VP of Centene with the title of Social Responsibilities. The annual salary for social responsibilities is $4.9 million every single year to deny Medicaid patients, the poorest among us, the health care that they need to live.
That ain't right.
That ain't right.
Ain't right.
But today's Easter Sunday. It is this person's religious holiday, and I'm not a religious person, but I was raised in religion, and I was taught that Jesus healed the sick.
That's right.
Jesus healed the sick, not if they had $5 or 20 silver pieces in their pocket. He laid his hands on them and he healed them. That was it. Not, hey, you forgot your premium, buddy, too bad. Well, Father Frawley, we are demanding, as repentance for your legalized manslaughter for profit, that you step down from this position and you come out swinging with the rest of us, fighting for single-payer universal health care, not contracts that deny it for profits. We demand you fight for not just the New York Health Act, but for whole Washington, for CalCare, for mass care, for every single-payer state, for every single national bill. We are demanding health care, not contracts that pay for your friggin' yacht.
Tell him.
Next, I would like to bring up Sakuro. Sakuro is from California. Sakuro works for CalCare as well as Mass Care, as well as the New York Health Act. Sakuro is an amazing, amazing friend and ally that showed up at so many events all across the country for so many different actions. CalCare Red Beret founder, Sakuro Forrest. Thank you, Sakuro. Such a pleasure.
Okay. Hi. Am I okay? Hold on. Hi everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So my name is Sakuro Forrest, and I'm honored to be here today with all my friends who fight for justice and healthcare for all. So there are two mantras that we follow in this movement. One is everybody in, nobody out, and the other one is no one fights alone. And when we say healthcare for all, we mean all. Just like Laura, I grew up half Catholic. My mother's family is possibly one of the oldest Catholic families in Japan. So my aunt is a Catholic nun. So when the missionaries came to Japan, and to bring Christianity to Japan, he appealed to the poorest of the poor, essentially the peasants who had nothing and no hope in this world. And Christianity gave them hope because there's a heaven that they can get to. And in God's eyes, everyone is equal. So how ironic is that? How ironic the Fidelis Care, who was founded by a Catholic charity, now profits off of the poorest of the poor and the suffering and disease, illness and death of the poor people.
Say that.
I'm based in California. So once I protested in front of Congressman Adam Schiff's office. So Adam Schiff was a co-sponsor for the Congresswoman Jayapal's Medicare for All bill. But I believe that he should be doing more, because in this country, in the United States of America, every minute, or actually every 12 minutes, one person dies for lack of health care. Now, actually, I'm using a conservative number for calculation, so it's probably shorter than 12 minutes, but anyhow. So it was a small protest, and there was this student who was writing a paper on healthcare justice. So during the protest, at some point, I asked him if he wanted to speak. And he hesitated for a bit, but eventually he accepted the invitation and stepped up to the microphone. And he said his parents are undocumented, and they are getting old. And he's scared, thinking about what if they get sick and they needed health care. That's all he said. It broke my heart. Being, an immigrant myself, it broke my heart, and I will never forget that guy. I will share another story with you before I end my speech. So there was this transgender man that I befriended over Twitter. His name is Craig. He was looking for help. He wanted Red Berets help, as a matter of fact. So he lived in this small town in California, near the border of California and Nevada. And his primary care doctor refused to help him. He actually insisted that Craig should seek health care in Reno, Nevada, because he will get better transgender care there. Now, mind you, Craig wasn't only asking for gender-affirming care. He was disabled. He had chronic illnesses that needed regular care. And he had no reliable means of transportation to get to Reno. But the only hospital in town refused to care for him, refused to provide care for him. So he described his situation as just waiting for his eventual death. I did everything that I could, but I could not help him. In the end, he was so frustrated that he cut off all communications with me. I don't know what happened to Craig. His last words were that he just wants to be left alone so that he can die in peace. So today, I'm mourning all the lives that we lose every day in the United States of America, the richest country on the earth. Because of the corporate greed and because of the lawmakers who prioritize the health and well-being of corporations over health and well-being of people. On this Easter Sunday, what could be a better message to send out to the world other than stand with the poorest of the poor and the most marginalized of all? On that note, I demand with my healthcare justice friends in the state of New York that the lawmakers of the state of New York pass the New York Health Act I demand a national Medicare for all, which provide health care for all of us. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Figure out how to work one of these things.
Do you want me to turn it around?
There we go. There we go. Is that right?
I'll hold this, please.
Okay. Sakura, thank you. All right, so I'm looking at this, but I think who we would like to introduce next, and we'll say just a bit about how we came into contact.
Where is he? Terrence around?
Terrence. He's holding the banner.
Oh, okay.
Somebody's got to
All
get
right.
the banner released.
All right. So what I want to say, so I'm going to introduce next Terrence Cudney, who is going to be speaking on behalf of Medicare for All Everywhere. And just, I would like to say like how this sort of came about. We got connected through the marches, the national marches for Medicare for All, not last summer, but the one before. And one of the most brilliant and beautiful things about the March for Medicare for All and the national marches that were truly a brilliant, I just can't say words about what the magic of that day, what a broad coalition that came out to speak. And I think it was 57, I might have that number, but you know, over 50 locations, and granted, some of those locations might have just had a few people holding "We Need Medicare for All" signs, and to major cities like DC, New York, LA, Boston, Washington, Seattle, Washington. It was a truly like magical day where the grassroots just really came together. There was a
healthcare, despite the well-documented decrease in mental health issues associated with the provision of transgender people to transition to fit their gender identity. Healthcare is in a bad state in this country, and it's not going to get better unless we do something about it. One of the things that you're told when you start to get into organizing around an issue is that it's not enough to want to just help people. You need to determine for yourself and those you organize with how your interests connect you to that issue if you're going to be at all effective. Put another way, you have to understand how it affects your material conditions. This is how you avoid coming into a racial justice space as a white savior, or how you maintain credibility on an economic justice issue if you manage to escape poverty yourself. It's how you galvanize people to work with you by demonstrating how this issue affects them, and they should care too. The great thing about getting to universal health care, and that the COVID pandemic has made starkly clear, is that we all should care about the healthcare system we live in. It's criminal not to care. That's why the story of Scott's son's suicide for missing a $20 payment is so important. Danny should be alive today. Danny's story also exists at the intersection of physical healthcare and mental healthcare. Our for-profit healthcare system has made industries out of dividing types of healthcare from one another so they can make more and more billions of dollars. Dental, vision, these are all types of healthcare. I'll tell a brief story and provide a trigger warning here for survivors of sexual assault. When I was repeatedly sexually assaulted by a friend and began confronting what had happened to me, my physical health rapidly deteriorated. I went from an internally quite healthy young man to one with early stage chronic kidney disease and a partially eroded esophagus and stomach lining. Stress and trauma make impacts upon our bodies. This unjust system makes an impact on our collective consciousness and health. We shouldn't need to look to any other country for an example of a better healthcare system. An actual patriot should want to do the right thing by the citizens of their country and have a country that's actually exceptional for the benefit of their people. An actual patriot shouldn't want to have a naysaying middleman like Centene's Fidelis Care between doctors and their patients that's siphoning money off to the side while delivering no value in and of themselves. I'm proud to stand here representing Medicare for All Everywhere to remind folks of the words of Martin Luther King Jr., that of all the forms of inequality, injustice in health is the most shocking and inhumane. I'm proud to stand with Scott Denoyer, the Red Berets, Healthcare Now, and others to call out the moral bankruptcy of the system. If you're interested in getting involved with single-payer healthcare organizing in New York and around the country, come find me to sign up for Medicare for All Everywhere, MedicareForAllEverywhere.org. and help us get more rallies, more ballot initiatives, more legislation going on around the country to deepen and elevate this movement, including rallies for Medicare's birthday this year on the weekend of July 29th.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yeah! Thank you, Terrence. Thank you so much, brother. We appreciate you. I will echo Terrence's call for action. Anybody just standing around not doing anything, I implore you to please get involved before you have the incentive that we do. Nobody needs to live my life living every day without their child because he was late paying $20. Nobody needs to live Amy Villa's life where her daughter Shalyn was taken from her because of $2,000 MRI test. This is just insane that we determine our life, our very vitality onto how much we can make in a day. If you get hit by a car and you're poor, too bad. It's your fault that you were poor, so therefore you can't get the help you need. If you're wealthy, well, you're going to be laid up for a couple of weeks, okay? You'll be all right. The one I'd like to bring up next is a very dear friend of mine. She ran for mayor of Schenectady, just barely missed it. Teresa McCollum is one of the New York Red Berets, amazing person and a dear, sweet friend of mine. Teresa, thank you so much for coming out. I should have introduced Danielle.
Okay, here we go.
Hello everyone, my name is Teresa McCalman. Like Scott said, sorry, calling you here. He's here. He's here.
He is here.
I ran for office a few times because I was fed up with the inequalities in my community, economical segregation, and I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I just wanted to see change locally, just around the corner from me, down the street, and it really opened my eyes to all the injustice and inequalities that was just everywhere, not just in my neighborhood and not just with my neighbor or with my own family. So like Terrence, I think that's what his name said, my public speaking, I haven't done this in almost a year. I've kind of retired from running for office for now. But all of you who are coming up on your re-elections, beware, I am watching.
Right. Nice.
So I'm just going to read something that I wrote, and then in the end I'm going to call for action. So again, thanks everyone for being here. Thank you to all the sponsors for today. I spoke with Scott over Messenger a few weeks ago, I think it was. And he was giving me an update of some of the sponsors that we have, more than we had the last time. And I'm like, yes, we're cooking with grease now, or lard, or whatever it is. And I said, this will be great. It's going to be a great show turnout, and I'm really happy to see everyone here today. And I thank you all for standing with and by Scott and Anna. And they've been working and advocating extremely hard from here to Washington, D.C., to California, and everywhere in between, to get some version of the New York Health Act, the universal health care, passed. We appreciate their efforts. We know their story, what started them on this path, the loss of Danny. Danny and so many others have been murdered by an uncaring, for-profit health insurance company and healthcare system. This is a human rights issue. This is not just I'm deciding to fight for this today issue. It's a human rights issue, and that's how it should be treated. The current healthcare system in the United States is broken, and we know this. It is a system that prioritizes profits over people. I really hate saying that, but we know it's true.
It's
profits
true.
over people. It is not a lie. You okay?
Yes.
And it leaves millions of Americans without access to the care they need. The COVID-19 pandemic has exposed the flaws in our healthcare system, even more so than before, with millions of Americans losing their jobs and their health insurance at the same time when they needed it the most. And don't get me wrong, there is no one political figure or party to blame, as Scott stated earlier. That game is put on just to keep us separated and fighting amongst ourselves to distract from the fact and the truth. The argument that we cannot afford to pay for a single-payer system is also a ploy to keep us from doing what's best for ourselves, our community, and our families. Remember, profit is more important than the healthy worker or community. That's their motto.
Whoa.
But the reality is the current healthcare system is already expensive. With Americans paying more for healthcare than any other country in the world. The New York Health Act would actually save money by reducing administrative costs and eliminating wasteful spending. We cut out the profit and cut in the living.
Yes.
Woo. Now, I'm going to keep it real, as always. I have said this before in the past when I was fighting for my children to just walk down the streets without cops harassing. I've said this before when I was marching to show people that Black Lives Matter. I said this before when advocating for, I said this before for advocating for my daughters and your daughters to have the freedom to choose and have a right to accessible and affordable reproductive care. I do not hate the police. I do not hate white folk. I do not hate pro-lifers. And I do not hate anyone who thinks differently from me. What I do hate is the system that gives the elite, those in charge, that actually we chose to be our voices in office and lawmakers, the asymmetrical power and unmerited privilege to kill us in any way that they see fit. This system of capitalism that created the 1% at the expense of our children's lives, that's what I hate. It is,
Tell it like it is. Yes.
it is my love for humanity, for our community, that I get enraged at this for-profit system that prevents people from growing and living. It's frustrating to see this righteous anger at this unjust, inequitable healthcare misinterpreted and ignored. My anger is not directed at any one individual or political party. It is frustrating to see the oppressed and the families of those murdered and suffer while those maladjusted to injustices remain silent. Infuriatingly frustrating. I won't be silent. We won't be silent. This Easter, we're supposed to be reflecting on life, on resurrection. And just to follow the theme, I was raised in an extremely religious, confusing household. My mother was Jewish and I went to Catholic school. I had to start David and a rosary right around my neck. But I want to reiterate, we stand here to talk about life and death and those that hold our own mortality in their hands. Our current healthcare system exacerbates existing inequalities with low-income individuals and communities of color facing greater barriers to accessing healthcare. The New York Health Act would help to address these inequalities by ensuring that everyone has access to the care they need, regardless of their background or financial situation. And I know I'm preaching to the choir, and I'm so tired of us continually saying this. Like it's common sense. I know that we all come from different walks of life, different religious backgrounds, but I think that we can all agree that as we strive towards creating a more equitable and just society, we can think of this. Jesus taught the importance of compassion and caring for our fellow human beings, especially those who are less fortunate. You do not have to be a Christian to believe this. It is basic humanity. We can only honor ourselves and our future by ensuring that everyone has access to quality health care. No one should be denied medical treatment simply because they cannot afford it or because of their socioeconomic status. Universal health care is not just a policy issue, it is a moral issue. Woo. This is about treating others the way we want to be treated, with dignity, respect, and most importantly, and above all, with love. The New York Health Act is an important piece of legislation that would create a fairer and more just healthcare system for all New Yorkers. It is a bold step towards ensuring that healthcare is treated as a fundamental human right, rather than a privilege for the wealthy. I urge all of you to urge all of our lawmakers to support the New York Health Act and help to create a healthcare system that works for all of us, every single one of us. Woo!
Yes.
Yes. And I guess I'll give a little story and then some actions that we need to take. A little situation that happens in my classroom all the time and with my children as well. I always tell my students that it is not enough to complain, that there is a problem or that you don't like how things are or they always trying to keep us down or whatever. It's not enough just to do that. There is a problem and you can find a bunch of people to complain right along with you. Misery loves company. We know this. But don't just complain. You have to get up and you have to find a solution. And with that solution, action. Do something. Like Scott said, don't sit around. Get up and do something. Find somebody that's already doing it. You don't have to recreate the wheel. There's always someone out there advocating and fighting for something that you're complaining about. Yes. Go find them. And work with them to make the change that we need to see in our community. So I'm going to end with this. Some actions that we need to take. You can find these on the Campaign for New York Health Act website. So we need to pass coverage for all. I know we're at the end of the session, the budget, right? We're at the end of the budget. I should know this, but I've kind of been like enjoying my retirement. This includes coverage for all, and we want this to be in the final state's budget. This expands essential plan health insurance coverage to all low-income New Yorkers by including undocumented immigrants in the state's application. And it's funny because I was just going to highlight some of these things, but as I stood here with my daughter Zelia, a woman passed by and said, "How can I get health care? I'm 65 years old." And it was clear that she was an immigrant. And I hate the stereotype, but she did have an accent, so I'm assuming that she was an immigrant. And she said, "I have Medicare," and I said, "A or B?" She says, I have both. And I said, "But you don't have complete coverage, do you?" And she says, "No, everything is not taken care of." She said, "How can I fix that? How can I change that?" All I could say was go to social services, but will that help?
No.
Absolutely not. I would tell her to go to her lawmaker, but it's not going to help. It takes a village, not just her. We have to do the work for her. We have to do the work for everyone, regardless of their immigration status. So we got to get that. Woo! Yes. Coverage for all. We need to pass the end medical debt package. Oh my gosh. I think almost all of us have seen that stuff on our credit. It is illegal for it to be on our credit, just so you know. It's not supposed to be there. If you owe a bill, they're supposed to work with you. It's a damn shame that we actually have to put a law into place to make, well, another law I should say into place to stop them from ruining our credits just because we got sick. That's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. We also need to make sure that we pass, above all, the New York Health Act. By the end of the session, we need to make sure that this is done. I am so tired of doing this. I know you guys are tired of doing this, but we need to make sure that this gets passed. We cannot survive another pandemic. We cannot survive another few years like this without health care for every single one of us. Thank you.
Yeah! Thank you so much, Teresa.
Always here for you, Scott.
So anyway, I somehow forgot to introduce Danielle. Danielle, everyone. On the side of Danielle, you'll see that this is what is called the Healthcare Solidarity Apple. This is my design, and what this does is it symbolizes our fight for universal health care from coast to coast, connected by a heartbeat. I work just as hard for whole Washington as I do to get the New York Health Act passed. My next speaker is an amazing woman from the other coast, also amplifying the Healthcare Solidarity Apple, and co-chair of the board of whole Washington. Came all the way across the country to fight for New York Health Act and universal health care. Thank you, Catherine Lewandowski, registered nurse and amazing activist. Just all around awesome person. You can put it on your shoulder.
Okay. Okay. Which side do I talk into? This one. Okay, thanks. Hi, everybody. I want to thank you. Can you hear me? Am I doing it right? Okay. I want to thank you so much for being here and supporting Danny and Scott and Anna. My name is Catherine Lewandowski. I'm from Washington State. I'm a registered nurse. I've been caring for patients for over 35 years. I'm the Vice Chair of whole Washington, the Treasurer of One Pair States, and a proud member of the Red Berets, and I don't even knit or crochet, but I wear the beret. So we are all grassroots organizations that are working for fighting for the health of our nation. I have been working through this pandemic as a nurse, and I have to say, I'm sorry, I just need to say this for all of our healthcare providers, but we are just very tired. We are more beaten than I have ever seen our healthcare providers and healthcare professionals in my entire career. Everything that we have always feared has come to pass these last 3 years. And so I just want to take a few minutes to ask you the next time you see your healthcare provider and a healthcare professional to say thank you. Because I've just never seen things so bad. The morale is so low. So we just really need your support and encouragement right now. But what are we really doing here today? I'm a nurse, but I'm also a mother and a grandmother. And we are standing up for our children and our grandchildren. This healthcare system, this healthcare non-system is broken and exposed. It is unsustainable. Our elected officials have failed us. They have failed our children. They have failed our elders, and they have failed every one of us. And so we are left here having to create the safety net that our country does not have. And as we travel across the country, the Red Berets are weaving that safety net. We have to be here for each other. And we are here for each other from shore to shore, weaving that safety net, city by city, state by state, coast to coast, until we have created that expanded and improved Medicare for all that gives us back the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness as our God-given human right, returning that right to every American and every resident of this country. We owe this to ourselves and to our children, and to the very least among us. Because our children deserve joy and prosperity, not the intolerable pain of a future without hope. I want to take just a few minutes here to thank Scott and Sakura publicly for all of their support of whole Washington in our I-1471 campaign. Both of them eagerly enlisted as signature captains and came to Washington to collect signatures for our last campaign. I wanted to thank them both with a small gift that we are giving to all of our signature captains from whole Washington, and our deep and undying gratefulness for their sacrifice to help us to achieve our goal. Unfortunately, we did not achieve that goal yet, but we are still fighting and still organizing to achieve a state-level, single-payer, universal health care plan for all of Washington. It is very similar to your New York Health Act. The one nice thing is that we are not completely 100% dependent on our elected officials. We can do it through the ballot initiative process, and I encourage every state that has that power to do that. We stand here today, anyway, so I want to give these small gifts from Whole Washington as signature captains. Thank you so much. So we are standing here today in solidarity with all of the New York supporters of the New York Health Act. We are all joined in this fight to create a country where all of us will inherit a world where we can reap the blessings of this planet, where we can all lead healthy, productive, and joyful lives, where we can wake up every morning with hope and love in our heart, because we are confident that all of our children can go stronger every day as they go forward and reap the benefits of our fight for a healthy community and a healthy planet to live out their lives on if we pass this legislation. Our country's promise has been stolen from our children, and they are suffering because of that theft. Enough is enough. We will take back the hope and promises of this land and give it back where it belongs. We will take back the pilfered healthcare dollars stolen from us and our children by these few corporate grifters and return those billions of dollars back into our pockets, giving all of us the hope for the future that we have been promised and believed in. That here in our United States, all persons are created equal and have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We will do this with or without the assistance of our elected officials. In Danny's name and the name of all of our lost children, we will do this together. Thank you, Scott and Anna, for continuing this fight in remembrance of your son, Danny. Your words were never more true. Together, no one has to fight alone. Thank you very much, and we love you guys.
Sure. Thank you.
Pop down here so you have it. Okay. Okay, here we are. So I am going to read a statement because it is Easter Sunday. Dr. Joseph Q. Jarvis has sent a statement in support and solidarity for Scott and Anna and everyone who has lost loved ones to our cruel for-profit system. And so I would like to read his statement. Statement by Joseph Q. Jarvis, MD, MS, PH, on the occasion of the Fidelis Karen's Cura action on April 9th, 2023. As a physician, I have cared for hundreds of patients, many without the means to pay for the care that they desperately needed. I have personally witnessed the loss of vitality and life that occurs when patients are financially unable to get timely medical care. In Utah, where I practice family medicine among people without health care financing, I was able to admit needy patients to hospitals owned and operated by caring people who were motivated by religious faith. Were it not for the Sisters of the Holy Cross, an order of nuns in the Catholic Church, many of my pregnant patients would have had no place to go for the delivery of their babies. Though not Catholic myself, I am a devout worshiper of Jesus of Nazareth, a faith I share with the Sisters of the Holy Cross. I have served as the bishop of a congregation of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Salt Lake City, and am profoundly grateful for the teachings and example of the man I worship as the Redeemer of all mankind. In his own time, Jesus was known as a healer. Healing the sick was his most common choice to manifest the power he had to apply grace in the lives of his brothers and sisters, meaning all of us who are the children of God. Beyond his own personal ministry, he taught that all of us who strive to follow him should visit the sick, even the least of us, if we want to find ourselves on the right hand of God. Generations of Christians over 2 millennia have strived to follow that teaching, including the Sisters of the Holy Cross. Sadly, the nuns eventually could not financially sustain their hospital in the uniquely American model of business as usual in healthcare, where profit-taking takes precedence over patient care. Today, what was Holy Cross Hospital is now Salt Lake Regional Medical Center, a for-profit entity. When we Americans stand by and allow profiteering to usurp the means to visit the sick, we are failing to follow Jesus of Nazareth. When we do nothing while for-profit corporations take over the tax funding meant to finance health care for the least of our brothers and sisters, we are giving permission for Fidelis Care to deny Danny Denoyer the medication he needed to preserve his life. And our nation is finding itself on the left hand of God, where, according to the Bible, we shall be cursed and go into everlasting punishment. As a man of faith in Jesus Christ, I cannot stand by and watch the disintegration of my country because greed is driving us from caring for the sick and injured. Though my commitments to Christ will find me in my Easter church service instead of in front of the Fidelis Care building today, I join you all in supporting single-payer universal health care system reform. On Easter Sunday, I call on all Christians, including Father Patrick Frawley, to join me in rebuking the profiteering that precludes optimal patient care and restores the care of all patients, especially those who are the least of our brothers and sisters, as the purpose of our healthcare programs. Those who wish to learn more about me and my efforts to reform American healthcare as a part of my personal effort to live a life of Christian discipleship are invited to visit my website at josephqjarvis.com. Blessings on all of you for your efforts to change how we in the U.S. do healthcare business. And I would just like to add to that this story will be told later, I'm sure, but, he is the Dr. Jarvis is the executive producer of the upcoming documentary, Healing Us, and I being from eastern rural Utah myself, I just am so deeply moved that, he's founding Common Sense Health in Utah. They're going to be working on single payer, passing it in Utah. So this narrative that this is for, liberal coastal places, this is incorrect. We are working to build this groundswell and these efforts everywhere, again, until we have the connective fabric and the momentum to push to pass national single payer. And so I just cannot express our gratitude deeply enough for the support and the solidarity. And it goes to show that this is not a partisan issue. We are all out to demand health care, and a conservative from Utah who's a 30-year public physician, and he has advocated, as you will see if you visit his website, he's been advocating for this for 30 years. And finally, he united with some grassiest of the grassroots organizers, and we're going to get our message out there. Thank you. Okay, so now, let's make sure, I think that we should, Linda or Earl, either one. Okay, so we need one you want.
I think Earl.
Okay, this is called.
As Laura was just talking about, Dr. Jarvis, Laura, myself, Sakura, we're all in this upcoming documentary called Healing Us. People want to know how you can get involved. Here's a way you can get involved. HealingUsNetwork.com. It's the upcoming documentary. It features Danny's story, Amy Villa's story, and other horror stories of our healthcare system. And, like Teresa was saying, we can't just complain about this. We have to do something. The movie tells you how you can get involved. Maybe you can knit a red beret. I cannot knit a red beret. I can draw a red beret very well. I can make banners, t-shirts, coffee cups. I can get on the street and scream. I can write on a sign. I can call my legislators.
Yes.
I can write my newspaper.
Yes.
I can stand on a corner by myself with the healthcare is a human rights sign in front of a hospital. Anything we can do to move the needle forward. to make people understand that health care is a human right, not contracts that deny it for profits. The next speaker I'd like to call up, on our banner we have NIPAN as a proud endorser. Earl is here to speak for them. I'm sorry I can't pronounce your last name.
That's all right. It's Kimmick.
Kimmick. Earl Kimmick from NIPAN. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
Good. Press this in like this.
Yep, just press that in.
Hi, my name's Earl Kimmick. I'm the people-to-people coordinator of the Single Payer Committee of NIPAN, the New York Progressive Action Network. I was moved actually to start working on the New York Health Act, as was our whole organization, in part because we heard Scott and Danny's story. And it's compelling, as are so many other stories in New York State. One of my colleagues at work, his uncle died, COVID. He wasn't allowed in the hospital because he didn't have insurance. You know, there's 1 million of us uninsured in New York State, and there's millions more who are underinsured. We allow this for-profit private health insurance system to make decisions that the doctor and the patient should be making for themselves, and instead they get to deny treatments, life-saving treatments. They get to pre-approve, and they're not doctors. They don't know what's going on. It's not by coincidence that the nurses, some of them are here today, the nurses are the strongest supporters of the New York Health Act. You know, okay, the nurses union are the ones that printed some of the signs that you see out here, and they're the strongest supporters. They're the ones that know. When we talk about the unions and stuff like that, we have the policemen. The policemen's union makes sure that they get the protection what they need. The nurses union is making sure that the patients get what they need, that the nurses get what they need to do their job, which is to keep New York healthy. And we're in a situation where that's not happening. And what we do is we say, fight, fight, fight. Healthcare is a right.
Fight, fight, fight. Healthcare is a right.
Fight, fight, fight.
Healthcare is a right.
That's what we do. We get out and we talk to our legislators. We call them. We email them. We do what, like Scott said, we email the newspapers. We send letters. We do whatever we can. We get a banner and we stand out somewhere. We pass out some flyers. The sad truth is that a lot of New Yorkers don't know about this bill. Right now we got a majority of assembly people. We got a majority of senators in New York State who are co-sponsoring the New York Health Act. The last time that it came to the vote in the Assembly, it passed 2 years in a row. So we're trying to bring it to a vote in both the Assembly and the State Senate, and to push Governor Hochul to A, champion the bill, and B, sign it into legislation. Right? Everybody said all the reasons why. We can't stand this pre-approvals, the denials of treatment for what? For $20, I didn't pay a fee. I didn't have insurance. I died. You know, I lost my house because the medical debt was so extreme. Please, give me a break. I mean, so we're organizing. We got a bike ride and rallies for the New York Health Act next Saturday. All right, next Saturday. That's April 15th. We're meeting at 11 o'clock at Beth Israel, Mount Sinai Beth Israel on 17th Street and 1st Avenue. We're there because Mount Sinai Beth Israel is trying to sell the building that the Eye and Ear Infirmary is in. This is a service for this portion of our community that are blind and have hearing problems. And guess what? It's been there for over 100 years. It's a one-stop service. In other words, they do intake, they do diagnosis, they do surgery, they do aftercare, all in this one location. Mount Sinai wants to cash in on the real estate of that building. They want to sell that building and get that cash, and then they want to disperse those services all around in different locations in the city at different hospitals and clinics and stuff like that. So this is like that. It's unimaginable because for a blind or deaf person to get around the city and to have to go to a whole bunch of different places, it's a disservice, and Anyway, it's a terrible thing. So that's why we chose Beth Israel to start. We'll be there at 11 o'clock. We got bikes, and you bring your own bikes. There's going to be some city bikes, and we're going to ride up to Hochul's office. There will be a brief stop there with a Hochul impersonator, and then we got Hochul never says the New York Health Act. Try and roll back all the videos and everything like that. She refuses to even say the name of the bill. She's afraid that we'll be calling her and saying, how about this? How about this for my kids? How about this for my family? How about this for all New Yorkers? You say you care about us, and you're not even giving us a Band-Aid. So we got to get to we're going to her office, and then we're riding up to the state office building in Harlem. We should be there around noon, and we're going to have a speak out over there with some tremendous speakers, some nurses, some doctors, and then we're riding up to Lincoln Hospital for the final rally starting at 2:30. That rally up there. If you don't ride a bike, cool. Just show up at one of these rallies and stuff like that. I can't tell you, this is a fight that we need to continue. We say that healthcare is a human right, and I'm trying to remember another chant though for us. I mean, I got one in Spanish, right? It's what do we want?
Healthcare!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Healthcare!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Healthcare!
When do we want it?
Now!
Ahora, right now.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Thank you, Earl. Thank you. Thank you, Earl. Thank you so much. Only have 2 speakers left here, but I just again want to thank everybody for coming out here. Even our boys in blue over here. Thank you, brothers, so much. They've been amazing support. My next speaker is from California, right, Melinda? No. Oh, Melinda's from Brooklyn. She's right here. She's right from here. So I'd like to bring in Mother.
Easternmost part of California.
Oh, right, yes. I can. Then I didn't put your that way. And make sure you choose your organization.
Hi, I'm Melinda Butterfield. I represent Women in Struggle, Mujeres en Lucha. We fight around women's rights and LGBTQ rights all across the U.S., including here in New York State. What strikes me in all the discussion today is healthcare is an issue. Healthcare for all is an issue that unites all movements. Black Lives Matter, the labor movement, the women's movement, LGBTQ rights, the anti-war movement, and all the others, because it affects all of us. It's something that can bring us together, something that we should be able to raise in all of our activities and strengthen through that unity. And then there's the personal level that affects all of us. We've heard, what happened to Danny, and I want to thank his family for being the inspiration to be out here today.
Yes.
But for me as a parent, when my kids were younger, the greatest fear I had every day was, am I going to lose my job and thus my health insurance? For me as a trans woman, losing my health care would mean, very, detrimental effects, because I wouldn't be able to get the care that I need that helps keep me alive. And that's affecting so many people around the country right now. But what do we see? Even though this issue affects all of us, 15 million people are about to be thrown off of Medicaid.
Ooh.
And that was a bipartisan decision. The Democrats voted for it along with the Republicans in Congress. President Biden allowed it to happen.
Shame on them.
Shame.
And now the right-wing Republicans are taking the lead around the country in carrying it out. So you can't say that there's not collaboration between the two big money parties in this country. You know, we see reproductive rights being cut back and threatened. And not only in the States, but, you know, with the judge's ruling last week, you know, they're trying to make it national. What happens around the country, sometimes we think here in New York or in California and other places that we're immune to some of the worst of it. But that's not true. I mean, Danny's story certainly shows us that, but also what happens around the country puts pressure on what happens here. You know, the lawmakers who are already in the pockets of the insurance companies, and the insurance companies who are only interested in profits, not in caring for people, they're looking at all these attacks on different healthcare rights around the country and saying, we can't wait to make that a national thing. So it's really important that we think in national terms, not just in terms of our state or those states. And that's why it's so important also that we fight for stronger health care here in New York, because what happens here also impacts other states and helps to build a movement in other places. So if we can get the New York Health Act, it's not enough, it's not what we need, it's not single payer like we need, but it's a step forward, and it can give inspiration to people in other places to keep fighting. Finally, I just wanted to say, you know, when we put decisions about our health care in the hands of private companies that are only interested in profit and allow individuals and their biases to decide on healthcare decisions that should be between patients and their doctors, that's a system that is not only inadequate, but is unjust, is inhumane, is a violation of human rights, as so many of us have said today. And we need to keep fighting until we change that. Healthcare is a right. Fight, fight, fight.
Healthcare is a right. Fight, fight, fight. Healthcare is a right. Fight, fight, fight.
Thank you, Melinda. So much appreciated. Thank you for coming out and fighting. Thank everybody for coming out and fighting. Now, next up is somebody who's been in the thick of it. She's dealt with the healthcare system, watching people lose loved ones, and for money, all for money. She's also part of Movement for Liberation, Katie Thurston.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Katie. I appreciate it.
So excited to meet Danielle.
Yeah. And if you want, I could put it back on. You could hold it up the other way. You want me to hold it for you?
I think this will be great. This will be great.
Button.
This will be great.
There you go.
We figured. Thank you, everyone. Hi. Thank you all, everyone, for coming out today. And thank you so much to the Denoyer family who has been leading this effort. My name is Katie Season. I use she, her pronouns. And I am a former nurse from SUNY Downstate Medical Center in East Flatbush, Brooklyn.
Right on.
And I resigned my position there after the loss of 8 black babies' lives and 3 black mothers who all died of understaffing related complications while I was working there. I got into the New York Health Act, and it didn't even occur to me it would cover people who didn't have insurance, because I was so focused at the racist ways our state funds healthcare right now, and how significantly that disadvantages the public hospitals in New York City that serve black New Yorkers, that serve people of the global majority, that serve immigrant New Yorkers, that the quality of care is night and day between private and public hospitals, and that private hospitals are only able to segregate their patient populations so that they can make more money because we have a separate and unequal system of insurance. Even if everybody had insurance under Medicaid, as long as we have a private and public insurance, we have a separate and unequal system of paying for people's health care, and we will continue to see the healthcare disparities that we created and have only gotten worse since chattel slavery.
Yes.
When in 1850, the black-white infant mortality ratio was 1 to 1.5. Today it's 1 to 3. It's gotten worse. And the reason why, or one of the reasons why, is because the public insurance that 2/3 of black birthing people use spends half as much on obstetric care than the private insurance that 2/3 of white birthing people use. So yeah, if we in a year when we valued people at 3/5 a human, the outcomes were better than now when we value them at 1/2. That makes sense to me in how we spend our money, and now but people still scratch their heads as why we have healthcare disparities in this country, with completely ignoring the separate and unequal ways we pay for care and that we deliver care. I really only come out to Queens to protest. As I drive out here, it is reminding me of all the protests I have been to in the last year or two. One of them was for a woman named Denise Williams, who I want to spend a minute telling you her story. Because she lived here in Queens, had a baby, had a 7-week-old at home, and was suffering from postpartum depression. And she was afraid of what she would do of the situation that she was in. And she did exactly what we tell people to do, which was ask for help. She called 911, but instead of taking her to the hospital where she had already established care, they took her to Queens Hospital Center. Her family heard the next day she was doing well and should be discharged, and the day after that they could pick her body up from the morgue in 2 weeks. They did not get a call the family did not get a call saying that Denise had passed away. They only heard from the morgue that she was dead. How did she die? We still don't know. When we talk about the hospitals in New York City collapsing, they're collapsed. We are beyond the point. Like when a woman dies and the hospital doesn't even explain to the family how she lost her life. That's beyond failure. And how is Queens Hospital allowed to keep treating their patients like that? How did Queens Hospital get to a point where they're treating their patients like that? And it's because at the peak of the pandemic, Governor Cuomo cut the budget to public hospitals. So we pay them half as much. We steal the funding that comes from the federal government that's supposed to go there. And we segregate our patients aggressively by race and socioeconomic status.
Boo!
That was a vote.
That's not right.
With Lyndon B. Johnson.
Exactly. That was supposed to stop with the civil rights movement. But in the civil rights movement, when we were pushing for a national Medicare for All plan, who opposed it? But the American Medical Association, which was still segregated white at the time. So for them, they didn't want to have to take care of certain people. And the way they did that, the first time the AMA ever collected dues from their members was so they could launch a lobbying effort against national health care for all. That's the first time they had people send them money in, was to fight us getting care. So again, I am so grateful to have such amazing comrades in this fight. I'm so grateful to be invited to speak. Thank you so much. And Assemblymember Havesi, we are in your district. We know you don't co-sponsor the act, and we'd love to see you co-sponsoring it. Queens Hospital is in your district too. This is the way that we would fix the problems facing your constituents. And thank you everyone so much for giving me this time to speak to you all.
Thank you.
All right, so this next speaker, we didn't know if he would be able to show up today, but he is here. At the very end, we will have a section for talking and giving shout out to all of our amazing endorsers and sponsors, as well as just a bit on supporting independent media. But for the moment, I will say that how we connected with Roger Meadows, who's going to come up here, is through Sabrina Salvati, Savvy Sabs, of Revolutionary Blackout Network. And so, yeah, he wants to say a few words, and we'll bring Roger Meadows on up here. Thank you.
Go ahead, Roger.
Right here? Yeah. Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Roger Meadows. I'm an activist. I do activism for a whole bunch of stuff. Right now, it's in New York. Oh, you can't hear?
There we go.
All right. I'm usually like a little speaker, so I'm used to talking to people, next to them. Anyway, all of this right here, I want to make this unnecessary. What I mean by that is, I would much rather this be a huddle for a petition drive to get an initiative on the ballot for the New York Health Act. Unfortunately, New York State is not a citizen ballot initiative state. Out of all of this, we have to put heat on Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins, Speaker Carl Heastie, all of them to put what is called a legislative referred constitutional amendment before the people of New York State, so that for us to ratify into the New York State Constitution, so that we can be the 24th state that allows voters statewide to place initiatives on the ballot, so that, and referendums on the ballot, so this way we can pass and repeal our own laws and ratify our own amendments to the New York State Constitution. Because all of this is ridiculous that we got to keep, I don't want to say begging, but we got to keep doing this to try to get these politicians to do the right thing.
Right.
This is absolutely ridiculous.
Because all power comes from the people.
Direct democracy.
Woo!
Exactly, direct democracy. Because this is some bullshit right here. You know what I mean?
You're begging while they're being bribed.
Exactly. And I'm thinking off the top of my head here. So I think my strategy, the best way to do it, is we have to put some heat on these Democrats. Okay, and I say Democrats because they got a veto-proof majority in both chambers of the New York State Legislature, and and we have a governor that's a Democrat. Okay, we're not in Alabama and we're not in Mississippi, so I'm not going to say Republicans because they have no power here. But where our power comes from. So here's the thing, and this is the best way. This is the only way I could see us getting to put some heat on them to get them to do this. There are 6.5 million registered Democrats across the state. 3.5 million no party independent. All right, and Republicans are like 2 point something and leaving the state. If we were to get those independent numbers up to where it matches, comes close to, or even surpasses the number of registered Democrats, all of these Democrats are going to wake up and be like, oh shoot, my seat's not guaranteed. Okay? Then they need, and forget about, you're not going to be able to vote in the primary. Well, it don't matter because you're not doing anything for us anyway. Okay, so check this out. So let's get this straight here. For, I would say maybe some of you guys who are not from New York State. Let me put you on here for 1 second. We are, for the fourth or fifth year in a row, we're #1 in income inequality. Oh, Jordan, what's up? We're #1 in income inequality, right? And the New York State Legislature just gave themselves a raise. They went from $110,000 to $142,000. Oh, you didn't know that? Oh yeah. And then so check this out. In 2019, they gave themselves a raise from $79,500 a year to $110,000 a year. Then just back in December, they gave themselves, the $142,000 a year that'll kick in. Was in 2025. So, Senate Labor Chair Jessica Ramos said, "Okay, we're going to do $21.24 an hour minimum wage and tack it to inflation." Okay, add that up. That's a little less than $45,000 a year in a state, in New York State. Now, what the hell is that going to do? So, either, I'm not trying to change it. I'm just putting everyone, giving the whole context. Because either one, give us a minimum wage around $52 an hour. That comes to about $110,000 a year. Or, no, you can go ahead. We good.
We don't want to be in the news.
Oh, they don't be sure. Or how about a state government jobs guarantee that matches what you guys get, where the starting wage matches what you guys get?
What kind of health care they got, Roger?
Oh, they got the best. They got the best. Okay. So yeah. Again, I think the best way to do it, we all got to start registering as independent. Fuck these. Oh, screw these Democrats. All right.
Vote independent. Don't get afraid. Vote independent.
Yeah. If they say, you won't, like I said, if they say you won't be able to vote in the primary, okay, so what? Whatever. The independent holds all the cards to the kingdom when it comes to that general. Notice when these guys, when the nominees of both parties win elections, one starts tacking to the right, the other one starts tacking to the left, because they're trying to get that middle vote. Why is that? Because most independent right now are moderate. But what if those who consider themselves left of the Democrat Party became independent and we outnumbered the moderate? Now, both parties got to tack to the left. Okay? So, yeah. You know what I'm saying? So, oh, by the way, I got some, whoever's not an independent, I bought some voter registration forms. It's right here. So, if you want to register as independent, no party, got it right here for you, baby. I got some pens, too. Okay? Want some pens, so, that's all I can think of saying.
Thank you, Roger.
I want to vote in the primary. I don't want to be stuck with a bad choice in the general.
You already are.
Not always.
If you're registered as a Democrat, it can be really important.
All right, thank you, Roger. I appreciate that so much, because what I got next actually falls right in line with what Roger was just talking about. Last year, New York had kicked the Green Party off the ticket. Now, I'm having a hard time gathering support from our lawmakers for single-payer universal health care. But you know what I do have in my hand? Last year, Howie Hawkins, which was a 2020 presidential candidate for President of the United States, he wrote me this letter in support of the New York Health Act, in support of single-payer universal health care across the country. doing everything we can, grassroots efforts. But yet I can't vote for Howie Hawkins other than a write-in candidate because the Green Party is not allowed on the ticket. So I'm going to reread Howie's letter in his support of our identical action that we had last year in Buffalo, New York. Greens say New York Health Act is necessary but not sufficient enough for universal health care. The Green Party ticket is the only gubernatorial slate committed to enacting the proposed New York Health Act for universal state health insurance. The Green ticket said today that New York should also socialize health care delivery as well as insurance. The Green candidate said that the New York Health Act should only be the first step in providing quality and cost-efficient health care to all New York residents. The Green candidates blasted Governor Hochul and Democratic leadership in both houses for failing to advance the New York Health Act as well as end medical debt bill out of committee in that last session. The end medical debt bill would bar the garnishment of pay as well as the liens against primary residents to force payment of medical debt. Over half of New Yorkers have outstanding medical debt, which is the #1 cause of personal bankruptcy. They called on Hochul to sign the bill to regulate facility fees that passed the legislature. Facility fees are additional charges to patients by clinics that are not owned by their doctor. The Green candidate also calls for passage of the Fair Pay for Home Health Aides legislation, which would set a minimum wage for home health aides that is 50% higher than the state minimum wage. These partial reforms are good but not enough. Replacing private insurance with a single payer is necessary but not sufficient. Health insurance and Wall Street venture capital and private equity are buying up doctors, clinics, hospices, nursing homes, urgent care, and dialysis clinics. Excuse me, voice is starting to go. Imaging facilities and home care agencies. These for-profit middlemen subordinate care to profit. In order to provide universal quality health care to all New Yorkers, we need to community-controlled state health services where communities, not corporations, own our health care facilities. This said by Howie Hawkins. The Green Party candidate for governor, the corporate takeover of health care has pushed out most self-employed doctors, freestanding hospitals, and not-profit healthcare organizations. Today, most doctors are employees of large organizations. Hospitals outsource many of their services to for-profit corporations. A state health insurance system by itself would just funnel public money to corporate owners rather than doctors and facilities at corporations. A state health insurance system alone will continue to delegate control of those care to profit-seeking middlemen with an interest in denying care to increase profits. The whole healthcare system now needs to be publicly owned and
It's all right.
dramatically accountable through elected local health boards, said Gloria Matera, the Green Party candidate for lieutenant governor who worked on the low health income immigrant children and families in New York City public hospital systems. The Green Party candidates pointed to the recent studies that reports to support their case that the privatized health care is more expensive and provides less care than public systems do. A report from the Inspector General's Office of the U.S. Health and Human Services Department released in April found that private Medicare Advantage programs issue tens of millions of denials each year for treatment of authorization and reimbursement. Private health insurance now receive a majority of their revenues from the federal government through the privatization of Medicare and Medicaid plans into corporate managed care plans like Medicare Advantage. Meanwhile, in the private sector, for the average employee-provided family plan, private insurances increase their premiums by 47% and their deductibles by 68% between the years of 2011 and 2021. Federal policy under both Trump and Biden administration had pushed for the privatization of Medicaid and Medicare plans.
Stop Reach. PNHP. Follow them.
Yes. Stop Reach. PNHP. Follow them. So, Services Department released in April found that Meanwhile, in the private sector, for the average employee provider, federal policies under both See what you did, Laura.
I'm so sorry. It felt important. I'm sorry.
Liz Fowler is an insurance executive who was the primary author of the President Obama's Affordable Care Act that provides public subsidies for private insurance. She was appointed by President Biden as director of the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Innovation. Fowler says her goal is to have all Medicare beneficiaries in private Medicare Advantage plans by 2030. 250,000 retired New York City workers are in the middle of a contentious battle over whether they will be forcibly switched from traditional Medicare to privatized Medicare Advantage plan. That was just killed, by the way. This is last year's letter. The Veterans Health Administration is also being privatized. That was killed because of you guys. You guys doing what you do, us doing what we do. That's how that bill was killed. The Veterans Health Administration is also being privatized. The VHA is a public health service that owns its healthcare facilities and is staffed by healthcare providers who are public employees. Privatization began under President Obama and has continued under Trump and Biden. The care increasingly outsourced to private providers. Biden's Secretary for Veterans Affairs, Dennis McDonald, issued a 10-year plan in March that would close many VHA direct care facilities, including the VA hospitals of Manhattan, Brooklyn, and the Hudson Valley. The U.S. Senate has rejected those plans, but for now. Studies have shown that the state health insurance plan in the New York Health Act would cost less for over 90% of New Yorkers than our current system. The Green Party candidates noted that the 2002 California study that only studies 2 date comparing a state health insurance system to state single-payer insurance systems found that health insurance would cost even less. Surprise, you take out their profits and our health care would cost less. As the Green Party candidate for presidential 2020, Hawkins campaigned for the community-controlled National Health Service. He said that the community-controlled state health service could set an exemplary model for the nation. Doctors who have been in the national leadership of the movement for a single-payer national health insurance program for decades came out last spring of last year for a national health service in a March 31st article in The Nation. They argued that the corporatization of healthcare delivery means that Medicare for all is not enough. We only have one more speaker to talk about, and Sakura is going to write a poem that he wrote for us last year. No. And I'd also like to bring attention to the banner that we have here with all of endorsers. I'd like Kate Mancheno to come up here to amplify all the New Jersey parties that came on board. So Kate, yes please. I'll let you do that.
Is that right? Yeah, okay, there we go. Hi, my name is Kate Minacchio. I live in New Jersey, and if you're doing something good for the people, I want to organize with you. So one of the organizations, or I think 3 of them on this banner, I associate with, and that is the United People's Assembly, which is a nationwide group that is organized to coalition with other progressive groups and help to change the everything in the country. Another group is the Unaffiliated Voters of New Jersey and also the Green Party of New Jersey. And I'm really proud that I was able to talk with these groups and that they were willing to support. We have a New Jersey Green Party member actually made the trip from New Jersey. Not as big a deal as Laura from Washington and Sakura from California and Catherine from Washington, but still, if you've driven across Queens, it's a trip. But I met Scott last year when they were looking for help to organize last year's April 9th event, and I was happy to help with that, and that's what I met up with.
Oh my God, and you have Kate. Thank you so much.
don't get me mushy. Don't get, you know. So I just wanted to say thank you, and thank you to everybody for showing up, and so happy to meet you all. And we're going to do this. And don't get, you know, when they started talking politics, I was like, let's not go there. I got more to say, but I just wanted to, I'm just here to thank these groups, and so glad to have met more people that are doing great work. Through Scott is how I've met them, and Laura. And so thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks for my hat.
Okay. Thank you for everyone for, you know, just being here and being patient. The last thing, after I give one more kind of shout out to the enormous amount of work this year in our independent media, is that, as has been mentioned, Sakuru will read the poem that he wrote. And then I suggest and hope that we can all observe some moments of silence here on April 9th for Danny Denoyer and all of the totality of probably millions, I don't know, tens upon tens of thousands every single year are the estimates, as you all know. But, you know, I just want to say that this amount of work, and even people who are not on the endorsement banner, we understand that this was a very challenging action. You know, orgs have particular strategies, and again, like we're here to just stand, like, take Fidelis and Centene head on, and we were going to say, just as we do in the documentary, some uncomfortable and really unpopular truths that maybe are a little bit outside of the strategy of some of our beloved single-payer healthcare justice orgs. But we do feel the solidarity from all of them, even if their official endorsements are not on this banner. But we are particularly appreciative, and, you know, in terms of Healthcare Now, just FYI, they extended their deadline to attend their online conference. So if you follow them, I'm not even sure their website, but I'm sure you can look up Healthcare Now. And if you would like to sign up to attend their weekend conference and find out how you can get involved, you know, they have really were the first to, you know, help amplify, as I understand it, and tell and get basically Scott involved in the activism. So I know that Scott is really particularly proud to have their endorsement on this banner, and they have also partnered with HealingUsNetwork.com. Super proud of that. Again, thank you so much to Medicare for All Everywhere, building this solidarity strategy through the states for national single payer. That is all of our goal. Healing Us, of course. Yeah, look at that. Hello. Hello.
Hey, where's the Easter Bunny at?
Yeah, well, that might have been my cue. You see them all up there. Duh. Huge shout out for Demand Universal Healthcare, like the first kind of organization who came out to the People's Rally for Improved Medicare for All when I first got started, and we organized with Whole Washington. I mean, these roots just go really, really deep. There's been people doing amazing, incredible solidarity work for some time, and some of our independent media, KRTD, shout out to you who are also here, along with Status Coup. What I really want to emphasize at the end of this, before we finish up with the poem and our moments of silence, is the absolute importance is an understatement. How vitally important it is that everyone watching this stream subscribe, donate, support all of the independent medias that you see on the banner, that you thank and support Status Coup for covering this today, KRTD for covering us today. They are building, you know, speaking of this fabric that we're knitting, they're part of this social justice fabric. Every single stitch matters. You know, how are we going to get our message out there and get health care for everyone? They are our voice. So please support them. You know, and if you can't chip in financially, please retweet and amplify. That is an action that everybody can do today. I would really like to see everybody liking, subscribing, retweeting, reposting, sharing the link. We have to absolutely grow and connect our groundwork and amplify these people that are amplifying grassroots activist voices is so vitally important. So thank you to all of you who are already doing that. Thank you to everyone who has supported us. Shout out to that beautiful graphic that Scott Denoyer created, as specifically the graphic for the New York Red Berets. We're grassroots. Everyone can do this. Everyone can contribute your art. You know, we're independent organizers, so wherever you are, whatever state you're in, if you're an artist, if you're a crafter, make your own thing. Start getting your group together. Start supporting your local healthcare justice orgs in any creative way that you can. And with that,
How do we find it on Twitter?
let's see. It's at NY Red Berets. Follow them. That's a good start. You know, follow at Scott Desno. And then, you know, he's always amplifying all of these other orgs. You know, just connect up to us. And again, I would suggest everybody go to healinusnetwork.com, because the last thing I think I will say on that is, you know, this documentary that comes up, unfortunately, we wanted to get it out through the independent big film festivals, right? But it turns out, confirmed in a couple of cases at least, that these independent film festivals actually, unfortunately, have insurance sponsorship for their festivals. Hence, Healing Us is going to be moved out through the healthcare justice movement. That's us. That's all of us. That's all of we organizations, independent people, independent media, labor unions for single payer. So everyone is welcome on this platform. If anyone wants to go to healinusnetwork.com and have your independent media, have your single payer organization, either national or local, state, city, again, labor unions, what we want it to be is a hub, a healthcare justice hub, so that when people do see the movie, they get to, people will visit the website and say, hey, what about the New York Health Act? I don't know I've never even heard of that. Well, now we will link straight to the New York Health Act and PNHP Metro and New York nurses and the New York Red Berets, everybody. So, okay, I could say more, and I think that's enough. I'm going to bring up Sakuru to read his beautiful poem, and then we will end, please, with some moments of solidarity for Danny Denoyer.
Yeah.
Hi. So before I read my poem, just quickly I want to say three things, because, okay, so in this poem, there is an expression, you know, say their name repeatedly, and I am aware, somebody pointed out to me that it came out of, you know, specifically to remember and you know, spread awareness of the POC, especially black people who are, you know, victims of police brutality. So I am aware of that, and I thought about not using expression when I rewrote this poetry today, but I kept the expression, and I may offend some people. I'm aware of that, and I ask for your forgiveness. Secondly, I'm not a poet, and I'm not religious either, but this is my prayer of sorts. And thirdly and finally, so I am an immigrant. I've been in this country for 33 years. I became a citizen during the Trump administration because I could not, you know, sit quietly and watch what was happening and not, you know, get involved in deciding the direction of this country. So my this poem is my love call of sorts for this country, because I fell in love with this country because of you, because of people like you who are willing to stand up for what's right, and that's you know, my love for you. So here we go. 68,000 a year. 68,000 a year is not just a number. 68,000 are the people who fall victims to the cruel and inhumane system of so-called healthcare. Remember their names. They were someone's mother, son, sister, brother, wife, husband, grandma, father, daughter, grandpa, friend, neighbor. They were our beloved. 68,000 a year. Let us vow to not let them become a statistic. No, we do not allow them to become a nameless, faceless, voiceless number. We honor their legacy by naming them. Say their name. It was Yodani, Alisa, Mary, Joni, Masako, Kim, Jose, Mohammed, Gloria, Ezra, Michael, Michelle, Lila, Gabriella, Alexandra, Caleb, Isabel, Omar. Say their names so they will not be forgotten. Say their names so their stories will not be erased. Say their name so those with blood on their hands will hear them loud and clear. Our loved ones, even when they were alive, they were already made into another kind of a number. Their illness, pain, suffering, breath, heartbeat, blood, and organs each came with a price tag. With a calculator in their hands, insurers and big pharma decide who gets to live and who is left to die. But I ask you, if their lives are so precious, wouldn't we do anything to save them? For their lives are indeed priceless. We are a fabric called the United States of America. When one of us is left to die, we start to unravel. The founding ideals of America, equality, rights, liberty, opportunity, and democracy, are in tatters. Our own humanity gets chipped away bit by bit every single day while we stay silent. Do not let them. Say their name so we will remember them. Say their name so we will give them a voice. Say their name because they are not numbers. They were our loved ones. We constitute this fabric called the United States of America. And when our rights to health, healthcare, life, and happiness with our loved ones are restored, then and only then we shall be whole again. Thank you so much.
Woo! Yeah!
Again, want to thank everybody for coming out. That was the last of our speakers. We are going to have a moment of silence. If everybody wouldn't mind just taking a moment. Typically, most families, when they have a memorial, they have it with their families. Thank you for being my family. Fighting for dignity. Fighting to save others. Thank you all. City for also being quiet for us during that moment. If anybody's interested, there's some information on the table over there how you can get involved with the New York Health Act. There's some QR codes that'll bring you right to their webpage. Everybody, whatever you can do, and thank you for coming out. Remember, healthcare is a human right, not contracts that deny that right for their profits. Thank you, everyone. Red Berets, everybody got t-shirts. Red Berets.
Hey folks, it's Jordan behind the camera. Just going to wait a minute and then interview some folks. It is Easter Sunday, so happy Easter if you're celebrating. It is a sunny and actually hot day here in Queens, New York. And we are in front of Fidelis Care, which is a greedy, in my view, criminal healthcare company. and we're going to speak with Scott and maybe a few others. We'll make sure to clip some of this out too so we can get more eyeballs on it later. I didn't think we were going to have a big audience on Easter since people are doing holiday stuff. But yeah, it's pretty telling that folks have to come out here on a holiday. It's April 9th too, so it happens to be the 4-year anniversary of the death of Danny Denoyer, who was Scott Denoyer's son, 29 years old, who, if you don't know the story, had mental health issues and was being treated with medication for that mental health issue. But because of a $20 unpaid bill, he went to go refill his medication and learned that he had been cut off of his health care by this healthcare company. And his mental health condition, once you stop taking the medication for a little bit, withdrawals set in, and those withdrawals led to depression and then worse, and suicidal thoughts, and then actually taking his life. And we'll speak with Scott about it, but this was all over a $20 bill. And when Danny called the healthcare company, they said, well, we could get you back on, but it will be in 30 days. Well, he didn't have 30 days. For those of you that have suffered from mental health issues, if your depression is severe enough, if whatever it is, because there's different mental health issues, obviously, you're not exactly in your right mind, and you might do something drastic. Come on over. So we're out here with Scott Denoyer, and I was just telling them a little bit about the background with your son, if they didn't know. Today is the 4-year anniversary?
Yep. Yeah, it's a 4-year anniversary. It was April 9th of 2019 that we lost Danny because, he was late paying his Medicaid plan, so they cut him off of his medicine, risperidone, which has a known suicidal risk. He subsequently superglued his seatbelt shut and drove his truck into the Mohawk River after giving us a suicide note. Fidelis Care, founded by Father Patrick Frawley in 2018, originally as a nonprofit organization, but he still received a very hefty salary. I might add that Father Frawley...
I just want to add, this father, since it's Easter, 2018, $5.3 million. $5.3 million from Fidelis Care. This is a Reverend who made that much money just a few years ago. I don't know how much now, but that was just a few years ago.
Well, he was promoted to VP of Centene and given the title Social Responsibilities. I believe his titles or his pay is only $4.9 million a year now, but I could be wrong. And his tenure is pending as they had a shakeup, as Centene also lost Michael Neerdoff in 2019. Couple months before our last action, or 20. What we lost, Neerdoff was lost last year. But anyway, Father Frawley now gets paid $4.9 million a year to deny Medicaid patients the health care that they need to live. The poorest among us, the health care that they need to live. Like I said in my speech, I'm not very religious, so I'm not going to be a hypocrite and pretend that I am. Father Frawley is. He wears that collar for every photo shoot that he has, and yet his God's teachings was to heal the sick, to help the poor, the impoverished. He's not doing that. He's enriching himself off of their pain, their suffering, by making sure Danny didn't get his medicine. That's $250 that goes to his company. He got pennies off of Danny's life. Not even probably a penny. So what we're saying is, on Easter Sunday, if you truly are a man of God, you need to step down from your legalized manslaughter for profit and support us fighting for the New York Health Act, fighting for mass care for, whole Washington. Any single-payer universal health care bill that removes the insurance mafia from our health care system, that demands we pay them if we get sick, if our child gets sick. How should we pay them profits to make sure that somebody else profits from their medical condition? It ain't right, and we need to change the system. And that's what we're doing. We're making sure that we remove insurance companies' profit motive from our healthcare system so that everybody has the healthcare they need when they need it, regardless of their ability to pay for it.
And what's really extra nauseating about this is Danny called the healthcare company, paid the bill, $20, and they said, okay, you'll be added back in a month. Well, I don't know if they just have an automated system or a human being didn't look up the medication that he was being denied, but this is life or death for many people, if whether it be a physical thing like insulin or a mental health medication for mental health issues. Couldn't wait 30 days. His mind was not capable of waiting 30 days, and the thoughts went dark, and obviously we know what happened. Can you kind of talk about what kind of system just makes it like dollars and cents? Oh, you'll just wait 30 days when, like you said, this was over pennies to this company. They could have just put him back on immediately.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at all these other healthcare stories, you know, we've heard about Amy Villela, who lost her daughter, Shalyn. You know, Shalyn went to get checked out for a blood clot. She suspected because she was in school for I think a nurse she was studying for. And she had all these symptoms, and she's like, listen, doc, check this out. He's like, what's your insurance? Shalyn's like, you know, I'm not really sure if I have it. So the doctor's like, Shalyn, these tests are thousands of dollars, and you can't afford that. I think it's okay for you to drive home 22 hours on your ripped Achilles heel, even though you have sickle cell traits and you're on birth control. But go ahead, Shalyn, it's okay to drive 22 hours. When Shalyn got home, she showed her mom her bruised knee. Amy was a CFO of an insurance company. I'm not even sure if you're aware of that. But she goes, Shalyn, I got an important meeting I got to go to. You know, give me a few minutes, you know, give me a bit, I'll get back to you. I love you. Probably just have a bruised knee, whatever. Amy loves Shalyn. You know, it wasn't like just whatever, but we all do that with our kids, right? Later on, she finds out, 6 hours later after she left, Shalyn dropped into a brain coma because she had a brain aneurysm from a blood clot. The blood clot went from her groin to her ankle. This was something that any MRI scan could have found for a couple of $1,000, and Shalyn would still be here. We wouldn't have Amy Villela as a huge Medicare for All activist. She'd be happy with that, I'm sure. This is wrong. You know, when our lives are reduced to whether you can pay for something or not, why should a person born to a poor family with diabetes have to suffer the loss of their child? And meanwhile, a wealthy person, I mean, $250 a vial to a wealthy person is not that much, and they can easily provide that for their child. Some of the people that I know, that is not obtainable. I can tell you about Danny Crespo, another insulin patient. He turned 29, kicked off his parents' insurance. He was worried that his parents were going into debt buying his insulin. He shot himself because he's worried his parents are going to go broke. His life to himself was less important than his parents' money. This is a broken system. We need to fix it.
I also think that whether it be your son or Amy's daughter or countless others, the number 68,000 is deceiving. Very. Because it's not just the people who die, it's the people that are slowly dying. I mean, I have met all around this country people that are slowly dying, even with health insurance, that they cannot afford the copays. They cannot afford the deductibles and the co-insurance and whatever other fancy, you said, like a mafia cartel, totally unnecessary fees that are being charged. And they have health care. That's why Bernie talked about the underinsurance. Or the people who don't have 3 hours to sit on the phone through the bureaucracy and be pinged around like a tennis volley between this number to that number. I got 2 back surgeries in 2 years. I had health insurance. I got hit with a $4,000 bill after one of them. I just called and said, I'm not paying it. I'll give you $200 today. Other than that, I can't pay it. They harassed me. I must have got lucky that day because we negotiated $500 and that was it. Most people don't have that luxury, and your credit will be destroyed, or you'll go bankrupt eventually.
500,000 every year. 500,000 Americans go bankrupt every year, and this is probably also, again, a conservative number, because of medical debt. How many Canadians go into medical debt every year? None. Not one. Not a single Canadian goes into medical. How about in Switzerland? No. America holds that. Just America. And again, I want to go back to our politics. It's not just the Republicans. It's not just the Democrats. When we have our vice president sharing Danny's story as a commercial for the ones who murdered him to sell us more insurance, we can see how broken the system is. You can't pretend to be for health care and then sell health insurance. It's just a broken system, and we need to underwrite that narrative. We need to make sure everybody understands these narratives. And, I mean, these companies have think tanks. Everybody hears the term government-controlled or government-run health care. That was fabricated by United Health back when Kennedy was running on universal health care. Back before that, you can look all through the news reports 3 times it was mentioned before that. After that, it's exploded. It's in everybody's mouth, government-controlled health care, because that's scary. They said to Nixon's opponent, or Kennedy's opponent, don't say Canadian health care, don't say universal health care, say government-run because everybody hates it. We're not advocating for the government to run our doctors. We're not saying doctors don't get paid. We're saying that the government needs to step in and replace the insurance program. If a senator votes against a certain type of health care, people that with that condition are going to see that and vote him out. You know, people that have insulin, and the senator says, you know what, we're not going to cover insulin in our Medicare for All plan. He's going to get voted out really fast. Oh yeah, and then that's only if that senator that kids doesn't need insulin, right? Because he's going to have the same system, or she had the same system that we're on. That's what we need to do, make sure everybody has the same coverage regardless of their wealth.
And I also would like to ask you, this is a broader question, but you know, all of these events, whether it's for healthcare or anything else, you got the people in the fight and then the people just kind of roaming around, unfazed. But to everybody who might not be affected now, maybe you have a job, maybe you have good health care. What happens in 10 years, 15 years when automation continues? Every day you're reading new headlines. McDonald's, fully automated McDonald's. Walmart's laying off 20,000 people. They're automating. So much automation going on to get rid of jobs. So what happens when Andrew Yang years ago, didn't necessarily agree with his specific UBI, but he talked about we're going to be an automated society. But what happens if we're an automated society and our jobs are connected to healthcare? What then? Because then you think the government's going to, okay, you got us, Medicare for all. No. So this is a bigger problem than just what happened to your son. This is going to affect everybody at some point, because our government, like some people here have talked about, has been bought. And they are allowing corporations to automate. Look at the railroad industry, lay off 30% of the workforce in 10 years over the last decade. We just saw what happened in East Palestine because of things like that. Can you talk about, because you've dealt with the New York politicians, the federal politicians, there doesn't seem to be a lot of consideration for those things. I also hear a lot of Democrats right now rightly, upset about guns. Well, why is it such a morally urgent issue about guns, protecting children, but not the same moral urgency for protecting people from dying without health care? Isn't death death?
Death is death, and I think it all comes down to the same thing, and I know you were asking me because you know the answer as well as I do. It all comes down to money. Follow the money, you can see who's, where their campaign donations come from, and that's why they're supporting who they're supporting. But they just have to sing us the right song, right? They have to make sure that they're saying it in a way that it sounds like they're working for us and not them. And I would say that's the problem, is we have to get money out of politics, in my opinion. We need to have open elections, this closed primary crap. How can I choose between one person who wants to sell me insurance and the other person who wants to sell me insurance? I'm not picking either one of them. I said I wanted health care. And like you were saying with the other issues, with guns. Yes, the Democrats come out swinging against guns on every once in a while whenever we have a big shooting, but then after everything settles down, so do they. So we also have the problem where, like you were mentioning, you got people walking by us. I want people to get involved before they have the incentive. Don't wait until you lose your kid before you're worried about everyone else's health care. What
really kind of dawns on me? John, I don't know if you could show this. I was looking at this the whole time. This healthcare company, Fidelis' slogan is transforming the health of the community. I look at the word community, and to me that means the collective.
Right.
We're in this together. But they're saying one person at a time. It's really one person at a time who could pay.
Yes.
It's not for the community. It's for the customers in the community. Can you kind of talk about, has Fidelis ever spoken with you? I know you tried to get a hold of them, find out more about the process with why they denied Danny.
Well, what they offered me was what they set up their standards. They say, well, they typically wait 2 months before they drop somebody's care, not one. So if Danny's life should have been worth $40. They were sorry that it was only worth $20. But they went on to say that they work really hard to work with their customers to understand how important it is that they make their premiums on time. Sorry your son missed his payment. We really wish he didn't. We didn't have to cut him off from his medicine and he died. But if he made his payment on time, he'd be good. And everybody else should learn that too. Make sure you make your payment. Was it Goodfellows where they were constantly like, oh, your kid got in an accident? I'm sorry. Fuck you. Pay me. I think that's more what it's like.
Can you kind of talk about, you weren't that politically active before this. You weren't, a diehard lefty or anything like that. You were kind of just doing your thing, working, and this happened, and you've gotten in the fight. You've seen the Bernie wave of the last few years. You've seen the crash of the last few years. You've seen kind of the movement for Medicare for All was so growing during the Bernie years, but now there's been, kind of a deflation, people criticizing one another, this and that. Why to you, whatever it is, whether you're on the state-based healthcare side, you're fighting for that, whether you're on the universal healthcare side, why is it so important for people? Yes, it's human. We all kind of get deflated and need time, but to get back in that fight, not just for rallies, but, civilly, peacefully, to get in the faces of these politicians who have gold-plated health care. They don't have to worry. Why do people need to get back involved in whatever capacity they want to get involved?
Well, you brought up Bernie earlier, and my whole thought on Bernie was he came out with that slogan, not me, us. We all understand that the two-party system is a machine. Bernie has been in politics for 40 years screaming that we need single-payer universal health care, then got in a position where he could do something and we don't hear anything. Why? Why would he scream about it for 40 years and then do nothing when he can? Because he can't. Because he's part of the Democratic Party, because he's part of the machine, and those above him said, shut up. And Bernie knew he was going to be told to shut up, and he had no choice. So he said, this ain't about me, it's about you guys. It's not me, it's us. It's not Bernie. All these people with the red berets, they're out here fighting. It's us that have to move this movement. When I say us, yes, the people over there, they're not helping us. It's us. They have to get over here because it is not going to be our politicians. They're not going to do it for us. They're getting, somebody else said it earlier, we're begging and they're bribing.
I also think it's important to note, I don't know what you think about this, have you seen the video from France this week? Have you seen what the French, they don't just stand in a corner. I'm not saying some of them are being violent, but, some might say rightly so. But why do you think that is, that they storm BlackRock like it's the Bastille? Because they have health care. They have certain benefits as citizens that give them the security to fight, to actually exert pressure over politicians, only for trying to raise the retirement age by 2 years. Here they're trying to raise it by 5. Your thoughts on other countries where people, just for raising the retirement age, are out there. The only difference between them and us is they have a much, much, much more humane benefit system and safety net.
Yeah, I mean, we can't quit our job and go to another job without worrying about that gap in coverage. you know, and again, that gap in coverage doesn't guarantee health care. But yeah, you can't quit your job and go out on the streets campaigning if you're going to lose your health care, if your kid's going to lose his medicine. You know, you have to do everything to struggle to stay alive. You know, on these other countries, I remember during the gas shortage when they had the yellow vest first started up again in France because they raised gas prices. And we can't get off our asses here when they're killing our kids? They will get on the streets because they raise gas prices. And we can't do it here for health care. We also have the mass media, which I'm forever grateful for you because they're always, again, giving us these false narratives. We've got this division with a blue versus red. You know, so you pick a party and you hope that your team is going to win. Meanwhile, your team is selling you a bunch of friggin' plastic dolls. Not giving you what you need, but you got this really nice token. You know, so thank you, Jordan, for not going along with the narratives. You understand the difference between insurance and healthcare, and I'm sure the MSM does too, because they're paid by the insurance. And they've got enough money to get healthcare, so they understand the difference. You know.
And lastly, just to kind of bring it home, let's talk about, unfortunately, I'm sure your family the last 4 years, what you've been dealing with. I assume I'm a new parent. I assume the sting and the pain never really go away.
It doesn't.
And your son, he was a father, so they're without their father now, your grandkids. Can you just talk about what this has done to your family and for you personally?
Yeah, as far as my family, I mean, my granddaughter she was actually at that table that day, Emma, and she's been in and out of mental health facilities since. I mean, she's got a lot of issues dealing with the grief, the pain. You know, I have a hard time taking a shower. Of course, I still shower every day, but every time I'm in there, I feel guilty that my water is warm. I think about Danny drowning every single time when that water hits my face. You know, what it was like for him. Was he scared? And I also then come around to, you know, like Danny Crespo. You know, I often talk about this woman named Abby. Abby was a 2-year-old that died when she couldn't get treatment. All of this comes into play. I shouldn't have to live this life. My wife shouldn't have to, you know, sit home for weeks while I'm going to fight for Washington, for California. But I don't have any other alternative because I promised Danny I would make our lawmakers look me in the eye and see the consequences of their decision. There's only one way I could do that, and that's get up and do stuff. I'm still poor, so, you know, struggle with my own medical conditions. I don't even talk about those most of the time, but, you know, we're just tore up, and I know I'm not alone. I see so many other families, you know, doing this activism. You hear a lot of horror stories, and those are kept out of the main media. So it's, yeah, I mean, it's just made my life a living hell, but I have no choice but to continue on because it has gotten quiet on the national front. The quieter they get, the louder we have to be. But thank you, Jordan. I don't know what else to say other than, you know, you've been amazing.
Well, you know, to wrap this up, I'm not religious, he's not religious, but from what I know and have heard about Jesus, he would not be for cutting people off over $20. He would not be for cutting anyone off, period, for any reason. You don't have to be religious or believe in any of it. But in most of these religions, Judaism, Christianity, it's about the collective. It's about do unto others how others, you know, do unto you, all that jazz. And we are thought of, you know, there's some crazy people who want this to be a Christian nationalist country. On the other side, there's Democrats who, you know, say the soul of America and we need to, you know, we're in this together and Hillary Clinton stronger together. Well, we're not really together. Since the 1980s or so, it's basically been greed is good. You're on your own. Good luck. Social Darwinism. Just with a bunch of marketing slogans, that is political campaigns. So we're not in this together if you have unnecessary middleman making the decisions that are the difference between life and death. There's no reason his son, we all deal with things, but some people medically need medication or other things to balance them out. I have depression. I'm on medication. If I'm not on the medication, 3 weeks, a month, I fall into a severe depression. And I could barely do this job. So the bottom line is everything's connected. And I think, I can't speak for him, but I think why Bernie made Medicare for All his signature issue is you can't fight for everything else if you're not healthy. If you don't have your health, your physical health, your mental health, it's very hard. I mean, you're talking about the issues you're dealing with. It's got to be hard to go traveling and all that stuff if you're dealing with the mental health, the anguish from losing your son, the physical stuff. So that's why healthcare is so important. And I think you made an important point. There's a difference between insurance and care. And you want to know something? If we could keep throwing more money onto the military, even more than Biden even asked for, you have to start wondering what is the definition of national security? Because I would argue our security is based on whether we live or die, and whether we live or die is based on, in many cases, if we have health care.
Here's a good point they bring up. You were just talking about the military. The Geneva Convention said it is illegal to shoot your enemy, take him hostage, and not treat his medical condition. That soldier that was shot by the American soldier wanted to kill the American soldier, and he gets free health care. It is wrong not to treat that enemy of the state, right? It is morally wrong not to treat that wound. But if you're a U.S. citizen, you are not even granted that same luxury. You get a wound, pay me, right? But our enemies can get free treatment. And I'm not saying they don't deserve it, because yes, they 100% do. I heard others talking about the New York Health Campaign with the coverage for all. I will admit, I've been asked if I support the coverage for all bill. I do not. Not because I don't think immigrants don't deserve health care. They don't deserve to be abused any more than we do. They don't deserve to be mistreated and taken for granted and have their money stripped away from them while being denied health care. They deserve health care, not insurance contracts. I'm not saying that they shouldn't be taken care of. I'm saying insurance companies don't take care of us. They do as little as they can to make money off of our pain and suffering. So no, they don't deserve to be beaten up like we do.
Tell people where they could find more information. The documentary is coming up, which I think Susan Sarandon narrated, and anything else they should know about the things you're working on.
Yeah, I got to give kudos to Susan Sarandon, New York City Susan. We love her to death. She has been very supportive of Danny's story and Medicare for All, among so many other major issues. And she has agreed to narrate Healing Us, and that is going to be released May 19th in Tacoma, Washington. We have a lot of whole Washington volunteers that were involved in that. So we are so grateful for that. You get information on that at healinusnetwork.com. People can get involved in the movie. We're going to be showing screenings all across the country once it's released. Also, if you want to get involved with the New York Health Act, that's newyorkhealth.com. We need people calling our politicians. We need people writing our newspapers. Everything is important. And lastly, if you want to follow my activism, I'm mostly just on Twitter at NY Red Berets or Scott Desno.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you, Jordan.
Appreciate it. Absolutely. So that's about it from Queens today. We'll cut up parts of the live stream because a lot of people were celebrating the holidays and probably didn't see it. Hey, we're going to continue covering it. The fight for Medicare for all, the fight for state-based Medicare, state-based health care. I know a lot of people are on different sides of that. Some people think it's a waste of time to try and fight for state by state. Some people think that we'll get health care quicker if we do it state by state rather than Medicare. To me, at the end of the day, I don't think we're getting either Medicare federally or universal health care until there is massive organizing, not just of our tribe, leftists, but of everybody. Not just writing letters or calling your politicians, but actually putting the fear of God in them. I'm not talking about being violent, but I'm talking about actually making them afraid for their jobs, making the capitalist class afraid. That's why I always talk about economic boycotts, because they're not going to do a damn thing unless they feel their gravy train is going to end, unless they feel their quarterly profits are going to be diminished. That is why I talk about France, for example. They have they have strikes. They have mass protests. Look at India. They've had like 200,000 people on the streets to strike. We need that here, and that is going to require more people waking up. So we'll continue covering things like this. Thanks for watching on Easter. Like I said, we'll cut it up. And if you're not a member yet, please consider signing up, statuscoup.com/join. Support this on-the-ground reporting for $5 to $10 a month. That makes a big difference. Statuscoup.com/join.